first thing I would like to say is Happy Feast Day, everybody. Happy Feast. Thank you, Bishop Burbidge, for being with us. Thanks to my brother priests who are guests and everybody who's a guest with us tonight. Welcome to everybody and happy Feast Day. The second thing I want to say is this is going to be a long homily. So you just know from the outset and you don't have to wonder halfway through. So don't worry too much. It's not going to be all listening. I'm going to invite you as well to some times of a little meditation and a little reflection as well. You will see greater things than this. You will see greater things than this. That's what we just heard Jesus say to Nathanael when they met for the very first time in the gospel reading. Jesus seems to impress Nathanael with knowing something special about him so much that Nathanael right away declares, "You are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." It's safe to say that Nathanael is a quick learner, okay? Because we know it took some other disciples a lot longer to figure out and to say who Jesus was. But here, within 30 seconds of meeting Jesus, Nathanael declares him to be Son of God and to be the King of Israel. So you might think that Jesus could say to Nathanael at this point, okay, clearly you're my prodigy disciple, and you've passed the who do you say that I am test right away, so you can go home now and just be still and just wait and just rest because you've got it. You can stay here and take it easy. But no, that's not what Jesus says at all. Jesus basically says to him, you like what you've seen so far? Well, let's go. You will see greater things than this. And Nathanael begins to follow Jesus. He begins to follow him as his disciple on a journey. On a journey. I'm sure many of you know, but I want to make sure that everybody knows that our patron here, St. Raphael, the patron of our parish and of our schools, St. Raphael the Archangel, is one of the patrons of those on journeys. He's a patron of travelers, which makes sense because in the book of Tobit, again, as many of us know, but I want to make sure everybody knows, in the book of Tobit, it's the angel Raphael who guides the young man Tobiah throughout a long and adventurous journey. He's his guide along the way. Tobiah's father, Tobit, who the book's named after, and his family fall on hard times, and so Tobiah needs to go on this long journey to a faraway country to retrieve some money from relatives that are there. But he doesn't know the way. And so he goes out from his father's house, the young man does, to try to find a guide, to try to find someone who will lead him. And that's where my favorite verse is, as some of you know. My favorite verse of the book of Tobit comes. And it goes like this. Tobiah went out to look for someone who would travel with him, someone who knew the way. He went out and found the angel Raphael standing before him, though he did not know that this was an angel of God. Again, that's Tobit chapter 5, verse 4, if you'd like to quote it sometime. Not one of the most quoted verses in the scriptures, but that's my favorite from the book of Tobit. And what a journey they have. Just to remember some aspects of this journey described in the book of Tobit that our patron Raphael accompanies Tobiah on. There's family histories and moral quandaries. There's civil disobedience and political oppression. There's sudden illness and financial ruin. There's bickering between spouses, and there's young people seeking to get married. There's tragedy in the life of young families and consolation for older people who thought they had lost hope. There's prayers answered in surprising ways, and there's people from far-off countries who've come together and become family and friends to each other. There's financial provision coming at just the right time, and there's the healing of a man's eyes with fish guts. It sounds like it could be the story of the first 50 years of St. Raphael as a parish, minus the fish guts maybe, but the rest of it pretty much applies. So what I want to invite you to do is to take a few moments and pause and remember. Remember some of the details of the exciting journey that St. Raphael as a parish has been on thus far. Think especially of what you've seen during this journey as long as you've been a parishioner here at St. Raphael. So I hope that many memories have come to mind for you about your time at St. Raphael, both of good times and of difficult times. Both are important to remember and to learn from. And every journey has both, doesn't it? It has good times and it has difficult times. I think it's a beautiful thing that our patron saint is also the patron of travelers. It reminds us that the Church Universal is a church on a journey. In fact, the documents of Vatican II call us as a church the pilgrim people, or a pilgrim church. And so by definition, a pilgrim is on the road, is on the move, and headed in a very specific direction with a clear destination in mind. And the journey began when Jesus founded the church and sent the church on mission to make disciples, to baptize, and to teach. And the destination we're headed towards is the kingdom of God in its fullness, which means the journey that we're on, to remember the Olympics recently, the journey that we're on is not a sprint. The journey that we're on as a church it's more like an ultra marathon, that we're always continuing. The church doesn't stop journeying until Jesus comes to establish his kingdom in its fullness. And each parish, like St. Raphael, is part of that church that's on the move, which means that as we celebrate 50 years as a parish, we mark it as a milestone along the road of a journey that's ongoing. If you haven't noticed, things just keep moving right along at St. Raphael in a parish this big and this busy. And it's good to take the moments, as we are doing throughout this year, it's good to take the moments to pause and to remember, to celebrate, to learn from where we've been. But in some ways, it's even more important as we mark this 50-year milestone to keep moving, to look ahead. I think we have to admit that sometimes it's a danger for us in our personal walk as disciples of Jesus. It is for me, and in the mission of a parish, that sometimes we kind of get stuck. That sometimes we kind of stop moving as much as we should when we should be continuing on this journey and following Jesus along the way. But the fact of the matter is that if a parish is indeed part of the universal pilgrim church, a parish that's not moving is not fulfilling its purpose. Let me say that again. A parish that's not moving is not fulfilling its purpose as part of the universal church. And that can be frustrating. Whether we're aware of the cause of it or not, to be stuck when we're supposed to be moving, it's going to cause frustration. Think of being stuck in traffic. I know things aren't as bad in the Triangle here yet as they are in New York or in LA or even in Atlanta, but all of us here have spent more time than we want sitting on the Beltline or sitting on Falls of Neuse going north in the afternoon and just sitting there. Okay, so I live right over there, so I don't experience that as much as you do, but I have experienced it in both those locations at different times. But think about this. Why is it that sitting still in traffic is so depressing at times, frustrating, even soul-sapping? Why is that the case? Because we sit still at other times and it's just fine. I mean, I'm very fine to sit for several hours in a row on a beach in North Carolina. I'm great with that. Why is it so frustrating to sit still in traffic? It's because in traffic jams, we're sitting still when we're supposed to be moving, when we know that we're supposed to be moving. And that's how it can be for parishes too, or each of us individually in our walk as disciples. Our purpose is supposed to be part of a church that's on pilgrimage. God leading us to move from what is good, from the good that we are doing, to what's even better. We're always called to be on that journey, to go and live that mission, to make disciples, to baptize, to teach. But whenever we're not living according to our purpose, it's going to cause frustration. Whenever we're stuck, when we know we're supposed to be moving, it's going to cause some frustration. But I want you to forget about traffic jams for now. And I want you to think about something else. Think about the excitement, the exhilaration, the joy of moving down a clear highway on a beautiful day, on a journey to a destination that you can't wait to get to, but also a trip that's kind of wonderful in itself because you know that you're on the way there and the view is beautiful. So just remember for a couple minutes a road trip that was like that for you. Maybe you have to think back to a time when you were a kid and you were going to a destination that you just loved. Sometimes as adults we lose that excitement of a road trip and going somewhere, but just remember a trip that you've had like that. And especially I want you to invite you to feel it, not just remember it, but feel it. Think about the joy that kind of a voyage, that kind of a trip gave you. So if you've had the chance to remember some of that excitement and joy that you felt at some point moving down the road, moving down the highway on a road trip, I now invite you to imagine like stopping at one of the scenic overlooks along the way. Maybe halfway up, a mountain pass to the top of the mountain, and you pull over at one of those scenic overviews, and it's amazing, the view is, and you're taking pictures. And now imagine Jesus on the trip with you. And as you're standing there, kind of paused on the journey, Jesus, who's been to the top of the mountain because it's his favorite place to pray, so he's been there. Jesus is kind of getting back into the car, and he's calling out to you the same thing that he called out to Nathanael in the gospel. Come on, let's go. You're going to see greater things than this. Why is it that Jesus is so eager that we as disciples and as a parish keep moving ahead with him? It's the same reason that he kept moving on to the other towns during his ministry. There's so many more people to whom we need to bring the good news. And one of the main ways that we need to keep moving, I think, from good to better is in reaching out from this campus, from this location of the parish, into the parish area as a whole, which is all of North Raleigh, and to all the people that live in that area. As I said at the beginning, it's such a privilege to have Bishop Burbidge with us to celebrate this special Mass during this 50th anniversary year and on our feast day. And I've mentioned this to some of you before. I remember well, Bishop, your homily about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, during my installation Mass. And one of the things that the bishop impressed upon us and impressed upon me as pastor is that the people that we're called to serve in this parish are not just those who come to Mass on Sundays. And he's reminding all of us as a parish and me as the pastor to lead this. The people that we're called to serve are not just those who are registered at the parish. The people that we're called to serve are the people in all of the parish area, in all of this area of North Raleigh, whether they're Catholic or not. That's actually who we're called to serve. And so I think Jesus is eager for us to continue on that journey of getting better in that outreach. And I think he's calling us to get better and move from good to better because he wants us to respond to this question in particular too. How can we as a parish be better at really reaching the children and the grandchildren of those of you who are founding members who are here, those of you who are dedicated long-term members? How can we better inspire the next generation to come to our parish, to stay, to grow in our parish as disciples of Jesus in his church? And I know that for many of you who are here, that's not only a concern of yours, but that's an ache in your heart. For those of you whose maybe children or grandchildren no longer go to church, no longer go to Mass. And I want to say, not just talking about you, but talking to you younger people are here. So you guys who are in middle school, who are in high school, young adults who are here. I think another way, whether you go to the Misa en Español, whether you go to English Mass, all of you. I think one of the things that Jesus wants us to move from doing well to doing better as a parish is to pay more attention to you guys and to listen to you, to receive your gifts, to let you work in the church now and to share your gifts, and to let you guys, young people, show us how to make the church a better experience for you. We need to learn from you guys as well. You're a part of this. You're a big part of it. For you and for your peers that we need to reach out to who maybe aren't here at Mass all that often. And so guess what? The more that we grow, the more that we live out this purpose, the more we move forward on the journey in these areas and in others, the more excitement we feel, the more joy we feel. It's like that road trip. We're moving when we know that we're supposed to be moving. I think that's why Pope Francis called his document, one of the first documents that he released as Pope, the joy of the gospel. And here's what he has to say in that document about the journey of parishes specifically to evangelize, to share the good news. He says, the parish is the presence of the church in a given territory. In all its activities, the parish encourages and trains its members to be evangelizers. And an evangelizing community, if it's really an evangelizing community, is filled with joy. It rejoices at every step forward. We pause tonight. We pause briefly. And we celebrate 50 years into the amazing journey of St. Raphael as a parish. We know that our patron, St. Raphael, continues to be by our side. You have, in particular, seen God do amazing things thus far. And now Jesus says to us, let's keep moving. You'll see even greater things than these.